So President Zelensky of Ukraine has recently basically reiterated sort of his willingness to take a deal. We'll go this. He posted this on X just a few hours ago, so we'll go through that as well as I'm pretty much refreshing through social to see if Trump responds. So far, he just is shitting on Canada again, so I guess that's happening. Uh, Calling Trudeau a governor again. So I guess this is the sort of diplomacy we're engaging in now. But today we'll cover Ukraine. We'll cover just a reminder of some of the stuff, as well as some of the new stuff that is coming out. Joining me today is Jonathan and Alex. Alex here is, if anybody sort of listens to the Supreme Court, oftentimes when you have a decision, you have sort of like the majority opinion, and then you have like a dissenting opinion when it's from the judges who voted against it about what they think. And Alex is, maybe I'm overstating her sort of disagreement or sort of where she thinks she goes a bit differently. But just a reminder that today might be a bit more sort of engaging or sort of disagreeable. So but we'll see about that. Specifically, let's just. I guess let me go, Jonathan, to you first because I believe you haven't been on the show since Friday. So just sort of broadly, what did you make of the sort of meeting at the Oval Office, and then we can cover the sort of recent stopping of aid.
I'm disappointed, really disappointed in America's response here, Daniel. And if nothing else, if you don't know any history, all you need to know is that Ukraine was invaded by an aggressor, had its borders breached by Russia, and had war declared on it in effect by Russia. It is the victim here, and everything I've seen from the U.S. to kind of bring a peace. Peace at what cost? Same thing with the situation in the Middle East. If securing a peace means encouraging aggression, then that isn't a peace. It's a bullshit peace. And I'm so sorry to see, America, historically a country that has stood up for the oppressed, seemingly siding with an aggressor. The headline this morning was that all of Trump's top national security advisors approved his decision to cut off aid to Ukraine. So no one's talking about American kids fighting in Ukraine. We're talking about Ukrainians defending themselves. And the fact that Trump seems so adamant against that makes me very disappointed as an American and an objectivist.
We have a super chat from Robert. Thank you so much. He says, happy Mardi Gras Tuesday. And once again, I apologize to the world on behalf of the United States. Then in brackets, because the man who should apologize won't. Now, Alex, what do you make of some of the recent actions, specifically when it comes to now basically full on stopping the aid from going into Ukraine?
Mm-hmm. Listen, I think that in order for Ukraine to get back on track and have a chance, Zelensky is not the correct person for them. He's an ineffective communicator, really, and I would say a lousy politician. He needs to, I think, resign. I don't listen. We have to also talk about what. All right. I was very impressed, and I think that the Ukraine mineral deal was like a defense alliance. Okay, I mean it was a defense alliance, right? And instead of having NATO, which is 60% of the countries in NATO they can't defend themselves. It's a joke. It's America there. Instead of being lumbered, I would say, with the responsibility of joining NATO, it's a defense alliance with the United States. And I thought that, yeah, you have an argument with someone in public, I think is a very, very bad idea. And I think as well that Zelensky is being advised by people who don't have his best interests at heart, who don't have Ukraine's best interests at heart. How on earth, if you're just looking at it from a lens of you want Ukraine to survive, right? Facts are, okay, 260 thousand rounds of 155 millimeter artillery shells is what Ukraine needs per month. Okay. The United States can produce 100,000 100,000 rounds of 155 millimeter tank shells per month. That therefore means that and by the way, the United States is one of the only countries besides Israel that is capable of independently creating these munitions, right? So you have to deal with the partner that you have, the only partner. There's no other partner, right? This is the one chance that they have. They have to, I think, take it. If Zelensky cannot manage his relationship with Trump, then somebody else has to take his place so that they can manage this partnership. I think the Europeans, I think it's disgraceful what they're doing to Zelensky. They're writing a bad check to him. You know, the idea, the 800 billion plan to rearm Europe. I mean, it's actually it's really a very depressing joke, right? I mean, very depressing. You know, basic munitions, they can't create any. ATACMS, ICBMs. I mean, it's pathetic. Truly. What are you going to have for your missile defense system? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe ask China. It is painful, truly painful.
Hey, honestly, though, Alex, can I ask you? I mean, you criticized Zelensky for being a bad communicator. I guess you're criticizing Europe's defense capabilities, your munitions capabilities. I mean, what about just the moral, forget sending a dime. What about just the moral condemnation of Putin, of Russia? You know, where does that fall into all of this? And, you know, and knowing that they are the aggressor here, they are in the wrong.
I mean, obviously, yeah. I mean, absolutely.
Well, not obvious
but I didn't.
For Trump.
If you had seen Trump's press conference, you wouldn't have known that. You would have thought, well, Zelensky's done some bad things. Putin's done some bad things. Let's get together. So
that's not what I heard. That's not what I heard from it. I mean, I heard at the very beginning of the conversation, Trump actually came in and he said that Zelensky was a man of steel. Also said that the Ukrainians were fighting bravely, called them victims. I think he said that Zelensky. So I mean, it started off very, very well, and it was also excitement for this alliance. And then it's obvious that JD Vance chimed in to have an argument and derailed the conversation. But I think that is being a politician is being able to rise above those things. Okay, it's not like having an argument with your wife. It's a totally different level of communication, and this is not the first time that Zelensky has been an ineffective communicator. When the war first started, he came and he gave this address to Israel, and you had a group of people who were very sympathetic and they left, calling Zelensky a Holocaust denier. That is an ineffective communicator, in my opinion. Really, it doesn't seem, and it also seems to me to be very easily led by very malign actors.
But to jump on that, you know, sort of the demand from Zelensky is sort of always know what is the right thing, but the demand of Trump and JD is, you know, they are basically retarded children who you like have to lead through what they actually have to do. Like they can shit, they can like I'm being sort of like really crude, but this is sort of the reality that we are supposed to deal with, that basically they are not capable of like seeing their own self-interest, so we have to sort of force them into understanding it.
Not to step on you, Daniel, but it's kind of what I don't understand. Like a lot of upset, I guess, in the right wing about Zelensky. You know, he didn't wear a suit. He didn't kiss Trump's ass enough. Like he didn't do this. He didn't do that. Like it kind of obfuscates the reality of here's a quasi, you know, more free country, a more Western country, a country striving to be more Western that was attacked by, you know, an imperial Vladimir Putin. And that is where the problem lies, for me at least, just the same way that in the Middle East, the problem lies with the Palestinians. And you can say, well, the Israelis should be better communicators and they should really just, explain the story better. But like the problem is the Palestinians and Vladimir Putin. So Zelensky not wearing a suit or not kissing Trump's ass enough, and frankly, Trump requiring that he kiss it. It's kind of like, what the fuck's the matter with you, man? Grow up. I mean, these people are literally fighting to defend their homeland, 20-some% of it, which has been taken. So, as I said, I'm sorry to see America not standing on the side of the country striving to be free from an imperial aggressive adversary.
I mean, I don't know how, I really don't see it like that, because I listened to the full 50 minutes, and you had people who worked.
If I can jump, because sort of, I think when we start taking just the sort of like the meeting itself, I think we are stepping somewhere completely wrong. Like a week ago, Trump was calling Zelensky a dictator, unpopular leader, and basically saying that Ukraine has invaded Russia. Now he is blocking aid from going into Ukraine. Now we are supposed to, and then between those two actions, there was a time where he basically called for Ukraine to retake Mariupol, which is a part of Russia currently. It's part that Russia has formally annexed. Now, I don't know, maybe he suddenly is sort of pro-Ukrainian, or someone in this administration, or someone making the deal. But what is the guarantee that a day after he won't change his mind again? And so we do have this like pointless mineral deal, but it doesn't really mean anything because Putin doesn't care.
Well, I mean, I think that he would care if you had Americans on the ground. I mean, American generals would be there, American defense contractors would be there, exploring. There's a massive issue, national security issue with procuring these minerals. It's not like oh, hey, that's a fancy schmancy idea about how we can make it kind of, maybe work. This is an actual problem that can be solved by Ukraine. Okay. And it's a massive, it's far more of a deterrent than Ukraine being in NATO, in my opinion, which is what Zelensky did say he wanted. He said, I want a security guarantee. Well, this is a security guarantee, in my opinion.
A mineral deal is a security. A deal of mine for minerals is a guarantee against Russia invading you, which it's already done twice in 8 years.
No, I mean, this is not a deal, I don't think, that involves Russia. I mean, this is a deal with the United States and Ukraine for
let me just say, I actually
producing munitions.
Let me just say the minerals deal aspect of it that Trump was the most hot on, to me, is one of the most offensive parts of it. I mean, mining is a legitimate function in a free market, and to have any element of aid to a friend, aid to a country in need, tied in with like future profits with the quasi public private sector, to me that's the most offensive of it. I mean, if Ukraine wants to sell or lease mineral opportunities to private companies, I think they should do that. But to have aid for a country that's being invaded, kind of contingent on being paid back through this a government minerals deal, I think is the worst.
No, so outcome. Okay, so this as far as so the way that producing dangerous munitions work is that not everybody has, in the United States, not everybody has a license to do it, right? I've tried to sell various different things to like the CIA and other national security departments in the United States. They're very particular about working with Americans. You have to whatever. And so it's not just a case of Ukraine being able just to sell this to a random company that'll create an ICBM. These are tightly, for right or wrong, these are tightly controlled. These are tightly controlled munitions. And the way that I understood it, the way that I read the deal, the way that people were speaking about it, is that there was no discussion about when they had to return the money, if they had to return the money. It was all kind of very vague. And by the way, the mineral deal was Zelensky's idea. Okay, it's a very much a win-win situation for the United States and Ukraine, because then it is the United States wants to have a bank of essential minerals for producing various kinds of munitions that they are unable to currently produce because China is controlling those minerals. And it's a serious issue that's been, being discussed for many, many years. And so they want to have that.
I don't know the specifics of it as you do. I mean, to me, a win for the United States is not a government mineral deal. A win for me in this context of the United States is beating Putin back every inch, making him give up every inch of Ukraine that he took, being united with Europe and other free countries in that effort, as if in a strong voice that says we're not going to tolerate countries' aggression. We're not going to tolerate, Europe or just Putin and everyone else is just walking in and taking territory in other countries. And whatever we can do, same thing with the Palestinians, and whatever we can do to dissuade that in the future. Mm-hmm. So that's, and Trump wants, in my opinion, what I saw, and I watched the entire press conference as well, is he's trying to be a negotiator in the sense of get concessions from this one and he hasn't gotten any concessions from Russia, as I understood, but get concessions of that one. But when there's good and evil, you don't get concessions from the good. The good doesn't have to give up any concessions. They're the good. Mm-hmm. The concessions should come from the evil. And that's the side that Trump won't take. He's not going to say who's right or wrong. He's, I'm just going to be in the middle making the deal. I find that pretty effing reprehensible as well.
I'm not sure that Ukraine has the ability currently to be able to actually repel what Russia has taken, right? I think it'll take a very long time, and I don't think, and this is just, I think they can do it.
Certainly not with America, or Trump begging, or not begging, but insisting that he give a written apology for whatever intransigence he committed.
Yeah, I mean, let's get back to the apology, because the fact is, after the meeting in the Oval Office, Zelensky still wanted to sign the deal. It was Trump who kicked out Zelensky out of the White House. Afterwards, Zelensky many times has said, and now just recently has said, that he still wants to sign the deal. It's Trump who just put the stopping of all aid going into Ukraine. So what? Where is this idea that Trump wants any sort of help with Ukraine?
Yeah.
We could go into the past with every time he sort of went against Ukraine, but even recently he doesn't want the deal anymore.
Yeah, I hate being put in the position where I'm trying to channel my inner Trump. Sure. I'm not even like a Trumpy person. I'm not even a MAGA person. I'm a Ukraine person. I support Ukraine. I want Ukraine to win. I want them to have victory. I want them to have long-term security. I want these things. And because I want these things, this is why I'm disappointed. And I hope that this can be overcome.
Here is the thing. Why are we not calling for Trump to resign? He failed to make a deal. He's not a capable leader. He should be, I don't think if this is enough for an impeachment, but he should step down. That should be the first thing we should call for. He is not able to make a deal. His first month has been a disaster.
Yeah, let's have Jefferson. Yeah, that'd be much better, obviously. I think that we have low expectations, right, when it comes to Trump, and then
we have no expectations.
No expectations. Yeah, potentially, but I hope that this can be salvaged, because I was encouraged by many things. I was encouraged by just the idea that even just discussing victory, even just discussing potentially taking back territory, even just throwing these things out there, I think this is a positive sign. I think rather than, by the way, Trump is not risk averse. Compared that to Biden, who, I mean, I don't want to do that whole Trump and Biden thing, but really, but what they did to him, what they did to Zelensky with their obsession about escalation constantly, it's an escalation. We can't do this. It's an escalation. Oh, we can't let them fire ballistic missiles into Russia. You know, Ukraine. I don't think Trump would do that. Okay, you're talking about not, yeah. There you go. I mean, that's what no, I mean, what they did to him, what they did to Ukraine, what they the way that they tied his hands is repugnant. I truly think it's just it's terrible.
Yep. I don't know. It's just, you know, my memories of growing up in the 80s and the 90s in the midst of the Cold War was that there was an understanding who the good guys were and who were the good guys and who were the bad guys. And, you know, in this context, Ukraine, they are the good guys. Russia are the bad guys. And I think of Ayn Rand's comment, you know, when the comment I always liked when she was leaving Russia at her going away party, a man, maybe Chad will get it right, but it was something to the effect of a man told her, tell them in America that Russia is a cemetery and we're all slowly dying. And it's still the case. So I just, you know, my goal would be Russia to be really taught a lesson here that this aggression cannot be tolerated in the 21st century. But I think by Trump kind of, hey, let's all get around the table and make a deal, Trump is legitimizing this type of aggression. And Russia will get something out of it. They'll get something out of it as a scalp, just as the Palestinians will. And that only guarantees more aggression from Trump and the Palestinians to come.
But I wonder, even on a strategic level, right, that Trump is over. Sorry, not Trump. Putin is over, right? If dictators never make it out of wars, right? They never do.
They do if he gets to keep 20% of the territory. If he
I don't think so. No, I mean, have you heard about what the Z patriots are talking about?
There was already one Russian-style impeachment attempt in the past by Prigozhin, sort of going on to Moscow, who then mysteriously got killed. Putin still has seemingly enough, especially if Trump has been talking about lifting sanctions on Russia. If we truly allow Russia to get a sort of a soft landing out of this war, he might be able to get out of this war relatively well. Not to mention he'll keep Crimea and the southern region formally annexed. This will be also recognition by the world that you can take we still haven't recognized Israeli taking Golan Heights like 50 years ago, and now we would recognize Russia taking Crimea 10 years ago.
I didn't know about. I mean, I don't know about any of that, but I wouldn't. I mean, I've. If you wanted to see truly, Russia, because I don't think it's enough just for Putin to not make it through the war. I think if you're wanting to promote secession, and you're wanting to actually break up the Russian Federation, then maybe that would be a nice move, because all of a sudden you would see all of the various ethnic minorities that have been, getting thrown in
succession. I'd like to see an American president stand up and say, we are with people fighting for freedom all over the world. If the government doesn't want to fund it, do a GoFundMe or something for Ukraine for munitions. And
we did that in Slovakia, actually. When government of Slovakia refused to send munitions to Ukraine, there was a sort of people started, and I mean, we brought up like few millions, which again is not a lot for in the grand scale, but it's still there should be people sort of supporting Ukraine. And we have a bunch of super chats and a bunch of different topics I want to get to, just to sort of set them up, and then we can continue the discussion. I just like to clarify that I think Alex, while wrong, I think has her heart in a good place, and people shouldn't be sort of like condemning her completely.
Yeah,
just a little bit. Thank you, Bronx guy, Can't Kill RD for your super chat. Thank you, Alexei, for your super chat. He says Zelensky is a hero, not a bad communicator. Do you remember how much he federated the free world against Russia? We have a super chat from Robert. Thank you so much. He says, great point. Jonathan, question. If you asked our president who are the good guys and who are the bad guys, what do you think would be his answer? I think he just doesn't think in those terms. And we have a super chat from Roland. Thank you so much. He says, you guys don't understand. He's playing 70 chess by failing to have made a deal.
Can I just say that that's the whole point? The deal. To me, the deal, whatever deal it is irrelevant. It's the idea of what Rand talked about was like the moral sanction. And, Trump sanctions Putin. He says that, yeah, it's okay to have a culture like that. It's okay to have, a society like that, where if you go out holding an empty protest placard, they'll throw you in jail. Or if you just speak out. That's what really frustrates me more than anything is the sanction of these terrible cultures. And when Trump went to North Korea last time around, I was about ready to jump out the window. It was so disgusting. So that's what I'm really offended by is that, to Robert's point, there's the good guys in this are Ukraine, the bad guys are Russia. And why is Trump sanctioning Russia? Why is he, letting them, in effect, off the hook for being the shittiest culture, the shitty culture that they are?
Now, something that Alex brought up earlier, so I might as well mention it. Basically, there is Europe has sort of announced a 5-year plan, basically raising its military capability. Potentially, the number that has been talked about is 800 billion, which is an insane number. I think the number comes from if every, I think, European Union nation raised its sort of military spending by 1.5%, which would get everybody across the 2% NATO sort of line, and then some. And basically, with this, they would allow it. There is also and it also has a bunch of like getting rid of some regulation when it comes to lending money to some of the military contractors. Basically, something like this. Now, this must have been like super rushed thing since basically this is the response to Trump stopping aid. Now, one more thing that has been talked about that I think is a bit more interesting is the frozen Russian assets. Keir Starmer has been talking about seizing the Russian frozen assets, which is anything from, I think, 200 billion was something I've seen being talked about, which is directly owned by the Russian National Bank, and possibly up to 350 billion. Now I've seen that. Macron has been sort of pushing against it, basically saying we could use this money as a sort of leverage against Russia, basically to use it as if you continue invading Ukraine, we will not unfreeze those things if there is ever a ceasefire.
Rand has that passage, maybe something in the super chat will remind us where it is, where she talks about the fact that, dictatorships have no rights. They have no right to have savings accounts anywhere. Russia has no right. It is not a legitimate country. So absolutely that money should be seized, sold off, given to the, Ukrainians like that. I hate that the fact that, we give them the respect, Russia, that they don't give anyone. We give them the respect for property rights, body rights, but they don't give that to anyone. So we'll have to find where that passage is from Rand, where it's the place where I believe she talks about how any free country has the perfect right to invade a non-free country. They don't have the obligation to, but they have the perfect right to. So Russia doesn't have any rights, in my opinion. It is not a legitimate society. It's not a legitimate government. So whatever savings they have around the world, I think should be immediately tapped and dumped.
Alex?
Yeah, obviously I agree 100% with Jonathan. Yeah, seize that money, and I'll take a small cut. We could upgrade the studio, right? With the Russian bucks. As far as I understood, though, that they don't really know where a lot of that money is, and they don't know how to. I heard that there was also quite a lot of confusion about that as the money. as well. Like they're kind of in two minds about where this seized money is actually sitting. Okay. The 800 billion from Europe, I think is, I mean, for what? I have to ask for what? What are they planning on doing? Because for them to increase their defense industrial base, it would take years, right? I mean, maybe a decade for them to be at the place where they would be able just to support Ukraine. I'm not talking about repelling a Russian invasion, but having a counteroffensive or a counter invasion and being able to actually push them back. So I find it like a bit troubling. What are you going to do with this? You're also, I mean, it's not clear to me. You would most likely as well have to start using those Ukrainian minerals, because even the raw materials, you would have to have started procuring that 5 years ago in order to start thinking about creating some of these, systems and weapons. I mean, Europe is incapable of defending itself. It's not even, I mean, they had a little whip around about a few years ago. And they managed to get, which is pretty impressive, 1 million rounds of artillery. Not bad, but that's only 4 months for Ukraine. So if that's all you have in your stocks and that all you have in all of your emergency supplies, and that's all of the countries, okay, it would take Germany figuring out, okay, how many unemployed people do we have? How many of them can we start to put to work? Can we start to get grandmothers to work in the old car factories producing these types of shells?
Wait, but honestly, Alex,
I'd love to see it.
Is your analysis that whoever can produce the most ammunition is who will ultimately be the victor in this context?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, in the war, 100%. Yeah, I mean,
whoever produces the most bullets, that's who wins the war.
Well, I mean, it's they have to. I think so. Yeah. Right now, Ukraine is basically able to hold the line, but that by the way, that's also very shaky, and that's only because they've been very they've been very good.
It just makes me think, again, I'm thinking back to when I was a kid, of when Reagan said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall. How many bullets was that worth in demoralizing the enemy, saying to them, you can't win. The West is righteous. The West will win.
Absolutely. But you can't discount what Reagan did as well. About Reagan put, Star Wars. Okay, Reagan also scared the shit out of them by their military buildup.
And he did, and he denounced him, and that's what we keep going back to this meeting with Trump. It's like, that's what I really find infuriating, is that Trump does not denounce Putin. I think he sees, hey, Putin made a move, and this one makes a move, and let's make a deal. There's no moral judgment. And Rand's line about judge and prepare to be judged. And they're judging Zelensky because he didn't wear a suit. I mean, it's so
come on. I definitely.
Or it wasn't like kind of nice enough. It's so tangential to kind of the real issue here of who's right and who's wrong and whose side is Trump and America on.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole kind of semantics over the leaders is unfortunate, right? Because here you have what is clearly in America's self-interest, right? Their national security interest to support Ukraine, and also, morally, they should be supporting Ukraine, and then also from what Ukraine needs, which is America's support. The only partner out there. There's no other partner. This is the only. Trump is the only gig in town.
Yeah.
So it's a difficult.
I think to sort of bringing back to even how did we get here, it's important to remember the only reason why there is even opposition to Ukraine is because of Trump. Again, this was a bipartisan issue until Trump said to Republicans, no, you have to stop supporting Ukraine. You have to stop sending aid to Ukraine. Now he's stopping it again. He has, again, called Zelensky a dictator. He has problems with Zelensky. in 2019, again, he did block again aid going into Ukraine because he wanted to have his political opponents investigated. Like, he
And
has no
Daniel,
yeah.
and it's the
Yeah.
same thing. Like if you're for Ukraine, you're in many people's eyes in America now, many those on the right, it's like, oh, well, you're pro-war. You just want to have war all the time. It's the same thing they do against Israel.
Yeah.
Israel, exactly. Like Israel's just out for war. But
Yeah,
you know,
and
when it's in self-defense, that's not war. That's self-defense. That's righteous use of weapons. That's what you're supposed to do. And that's why we should support Ukraine, and Trump
And
should support him especially.
what I would like to see truly is Ukraine being able to switch the center of gravity in the war, right? They've settled into a war of attrition. A nice surge would be what I would like to see in order to change the balance of power, right? I think I really believe that this war militarily with more aggressive, with if Ukraine was able to have enough munitions to be as aggressive as they would want to be, and maybe they could also change their conscription laws, because their conscription laws are pretty unusual. Then I think that this would be the year that Russia's got so much egg on its face, but if the name is attrition, if the game is attrition, then Ukraine can't win that. It's very, they have to have a surge, I think, right, in order to be able to change the name of the game. Otherwise, this attrition could go on for 50 years. I'm not even joking. It really could.
This is outside my area of expertise, but don't you think that Putin thought that he'd walk in and he'd take this over in like a couple of weeks?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So, I mean, so America withdrawing its support does, in my opinion, nothing to
no, it's terrible. It's
elongating
awful.
the conflict.
Well, it might even be ending it. I mean, I don't know what their situation is like, but the Ukrainians have managed to achieve some really phenomenal things. I mean, if you look at, Ukraine doesn't really have a navy, and they've managed to destroy how many battleships with drones?
Yeah, I think they pretty much took out Russian capabilities to sort of basically. I believe there was a blockade in the Black Sea imposed by Russia, and Ukraine, again, without navy, was able to basically unenforce that blockade. So yeah,
absolutely. And by the way, but I just want to say something, John. I mean, also, I don't have any mind reading capabilities. I can't read Putin's mind. I can't read Trump's mind. If I did, I would tell you, I promise. But the thing that I was understanding from the Z Patriots, right? The Z Patriots on Twitter, and the Z Patriots on YouTube. Well, they're not really on YouTube anymore. Telegram, is that they didn't think that Ukraine would actually fight. They really just thought that's what they were banking on. So it really could have been 3 days.
Putin was walking into
will.
Kiev. He thought he could just walk into Kiev and basically take over. Now,
and install a puppet, and that's it.
Yeah, I think something, Alex, you said that this might go on for 50 years. Now, I think even if it became attrition, I think 50 is maybe more. But I think you could easily get a long time. Like, it has to be remembered, for about 2 years, the lines didn't really move that much. We are already in that sort of thing. But something that...
Trench warfare as well.
Yeah, but I just want to make one thing. Like, even if it does continue like this, isn't that, as long as Ukrainians are willing to fight and do want this to continue, isn't that preferable to basically surrendering to Russia, for allowing Russia to take some stuff and then move on to some other place? Because we know that the West will not...
And maybe, God willing, after a year and a half of that stalemate, so the Russians themselves start to stand up and say, "What the?
I wouldn't bet on it
here." And maybe there can be a Russian revolution. I mean, that again, it's such a terrible culture, such a terrible society. I mean, imagine a Russia where that had some elements of freedom of speech, or legitimate markets and non-oligarchy and non-interventionism. Maybe the Russians themselves, after 2 years of that stalemate, but you've got to stand up to evil. You cannot just let, in my opinion, walk through and take what it wants. And that's why Trump's kind of conditioning. Well, Zelensky wasn't nice enough, and he was too pompous. Whatever the objection is like it's so tangential to the importance of standing up for the good. And whether it's, it doesn't have to be you going to fight. People say, well, if you love your Ukraine, so much you go. I don't have to fight, but I certainly think, as Ayn Rand talked about sending money to Israel in the 70s and 80s, sending some money, some old munitions to Ukraine to beat back a murderous totalitarian Russia is a legitimate and moral thing to do.
I mean, absolutely. I wouldn't bet on it though. From the Russian civilians, I think that really will.
Well, Russian oligarchs.
Yeah.
I mean, those also do not prefer sort of Putin. Like there already
well, yeah,
was...
but that's the thing, Daniel. This whole idea, Putin will go. Yeah, Putin's actually one of the moderates in Russia, and I think that's true. So it's not great if Putin goes. Maybe we, if the choice is Putin and one of these other, Z psychopaths that's been talking, that maybe might nuke someone.
But come on, it's like, well, we shouldn't like kill Hitler because Himmler.
No, let's kill Hitler. Let's absolutely do it. But I don't like this idea that, if we just remove the one dictator, like it's like saying, if we just remove the one leader of Hamas, everything's going to be different. If you remove Putin, I don't think and you get another weirdo. Putin is one of the moderates. It's frightening from his generals.
That's why I really hope that the more West, Ukraine maybe is not Western, but it's certainly more West. I really hope that and I want America under Trump or under anyone to help them. And I want Europe to help them succeed, to help them beat back the evil aggressor in this case. And,
it's just
the future of Ukraine is uncertain because it's dependent on Trump or on Zelensky kissing Trump's ass, which just seems so backward.
Well, if that even would work, like we still have, like Zelensky is still willing to take a deal. Zelensky has apologized as much as you could expect sort of a world leader to apologize. Like you cannot expect, if Trump is directly expecting I apologize to Trump for influencing
that third grade once where they said, now you go over to him and you apologize. What the is wrong with these people? They need a little apology. It's so stupid.
Yeah, but the thing is, Jonathan, they're politicians, so by nature they're narcissists. And Trump is,
no one else would expect this. Like Biden hates Netanyahu. Chuck Schumer called for Netanyahu to be removed from office. And they did block some of the aid going into Israel, but they largely did still continue supporting Israel. You wouldn't see like Biden conditioning on a sorry or thank you or apology.
However, with all of that, by the way, with all of that horrible stuff, with all of that, with all of that slighting and the nudging and the kind of the criticizing and the scheming against Netanyahu, he went there and I love you, thank you, publicly. I love you, thank you so much. You guys are amazing people. Couldn't have asked for
he's a slimy politician. We shouldn't ask for more of that. Like that's not a good thing to sort of ask for, I think. But let's, as Jonathan reminds me, let's go to the super chat. We have a bunch of them actually. Thank you, first of all, Enric. Thank you so much. He says, "I'm glad Alex is providing the other perspective. One does need to navigate bad conditions." I mean, this is why I'm
not on the other side. We're all on the same side. We all support Ukraine. We just have different opinions about how to get there.
Yeah, that's why I recommend.
Objectivists are a cult.
Yeah, that's why I recommend people becoming member, because this conversation has been happening on WhatsApp for pretty much since about Saturday. So that's a great. Members have access to WhatsApp groups where me, Alex, and many of the other hosts are there, and you can talk to us as well as any other members. We have a super chat from Overcomer. Thank you so much. He says, "Why is Europe still buying Russian oil and supporting Russia?" Yeah,
There you go.
if not on day one, then on day one there should have been a plan put in place, basically saying in X years we will basically put a complete embargo on Russia. The fact that we are still trading, I mean, my own country, Slovakia, we just because the sort of Ukrainian oil pipeline got shut down because the deal ran out, we started buying it through Turkstream because that's the only place we could get it. Like it really, and we're getting like drips and drabs that like come here after like Hungary. So it's really,
However,
yeah.
I also just do want to say like a little something. If you do remember, wasn't it Trump that said that, you know, Ukraine should join NATO? And he said, and he was laughed at in the UN when he said, you know, to Germany, you're going to become dependent on Russian oil. And they did laugh at him. And you know, so I don't want to, I think it's a real mistake. I'm not, why am I defending either Putin or Trump? I'm not defending either of them. I'm simply saying that
I've seen that clip, yeah.
everybody has really screwed Ukraine in many different ways. And I think that Angela Merkel may be like, you know, she's like the Voldemort.
Yeah, I've seen that specific clip from the UN, which I did find funny. But even when he said it, the fact is that he did something for Ukraine. He also did something against Ukraine, and he like Crimea was already invaded. Crimea was illegally occupied by Russia. Trump could have done something during that time. Like the fact that, you know, he calls himself sort of the president of peace or whatever. Yeah, when you don't stand up to evil, then yeah, you can call yourself sort of you kept peace. But again, that shouldn't be something applauded. We have a super chat from Roland. Thank you so much. He says, "Suit and tie money in case the chess master in chief wants to make a deal with one of you." Yeah, better make sure. Thank you, Dan, for your super chat. He says, "Feel sad for Ukrainians for the tragedy. USA used Ukraine against Russia since 90s and now abandoning them. Ukrainians suffering for Western mistakes." I wouldn't say sort of
wasn't that, I mean, I have to go back and relearn my history, but like wasn't that the whole idea of Ukraine giving up its nuclear weapons after the fall of the Soviet Union, was that they were going to have a security guarantee of some sort against Russian aggression? And yet here we are 30 some odd years later, and there's been multiple trends, you know, so
I also think that it's very unhelpful for Zelensky to continually bring that up because
why?
I think it's a bit, I think it doesn't come across well. Imagine, I mean, we could also play these games, right? Every time make this point, well, you guys have to support us with our war against Hamas because you forced us to do Oslo, or you forced us into the deal with Egypt, or, you know, these are big mistakes that that Israel was led into. And again, who could deny? But by the way, they took part in it. They agreed. They didn't have a gun to their heads. Same way Rabin and all of his gang of enablers, they agreed to Oslo, and they agreed to Oslo too. And so you have to take some responsibility for that. And I think it's unhelpful to continually bring it up. It is. Well, I really don't like it.
It's kind of similar, like Czechoslovakia should take responsibility for trusting France to actually defend its borders.
I don't.
I mean,
I don't mean that. No. I don't mean that. I don't mean that at all. I don't mean that. I mean these. Yeah.
I'll just mention one thing. I also think it's sort of dumb to sort of bring it out now. Like it's almost like besides the point. Like even if that agreement, even if that agreement didn't happen, this is still wrong. Like even if there was no agreement in the past, what's happening right now is wrong. And yeah, you can sort of mention it as like a historical sort of like nuance, but it really doesn't change that much about what's going on right now. So I could like see that point.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I'm reading.
Yeah, but Ukraine's been filled 5,000 times. It's a bit.
I mean, Ukraine agreed to transfer its nuclear weapons in 1994 in exchange for assurances from Russia, the United States, the United Kingdom to respect Ukrainian independence and sovereignty in the existing borders. So yeah, if I made a deal in 1994 and now they were like, well, you really need to make a deal, for me, just like Zelensky did, I'd say every deal we've made with these people, they have totally violated. You know,
but I think it's,
and you're saying,
yeah, but
well, they really shouldn't bring that up anymore. Of
no,
course
no, no. There have been thousands of deals that they've made with I mean, how many have they really had? I mean, there've been what, 6 in the last 30 years that Russia's violated? Of course they violated. We all know it. But I think that's not really what I was kind of mentioning, though. I was sort of referring to something else, which if you were watching yesterday, it's kind of this Obama-y type thing. Like, I didn't want to do it. I'm just me, I'm just little Obama. I was forced into it by meanie weenie Israel or meanie weenie whoever. I think it is unhelpful for it. And by the way, Israelis do it as well all the time. They always say, if you hadn't have forced our hand and made us sign Oslo, then we wouldn't have all the problems we have right now. You have to take, I think you have to take a little bit of responsibility for your side of the streets. Of course, it is on the violator of the agreements. Okay, I'm not talking about I'm talking about when there's a third party in the agreements and you blame the violation on the third party, is what I'm trying to say.
Right. There should be a stipulation in any agreement that Ukraine be somehow compensated for Russia violating the 1994 agreement. To me, that's justice. Your word is your bond. It's kind of what we were taught at the Board of Trade. So, I mean, Zelensky kind of got into it with J.D. Vance because Vance was saying, well, you don't want a deal. Zelensky seemed to remind him of the deals that they had made that Russia continuously violates. So, Dave, thank you for your super chat, if I may, Daniel. Dan says, Trump has an affinity for dictators. They see Ukrainians, Zelensky as Democrats, and Putin as what they aspire to be. Unfortunate reality. And I have to say, I agree. There's this might makes right ugliness that pervades a lot of the world and certainly a lot of American right wing.
Yeah, we also
Come on. Kim Jong-un is just misunderstood, Jonathan. Give him a bit of a chance. All right. You might like him. He likes who does he like? He loves the Dennis Rodman. He loves him.
We also have a super chat from Alexei. Thank you so much. He says, in quotes, oh yeah, they signed lots of deals that got violated, so let's sign one more. I mean, that was
that's thing. Alexis. You just misgendered Alexis, called her Alexei.
Alexei can remind me in the chat, I believe, because I met him personally in London. He's French, and I think the S is silent.
Okay, so I'm very sorry. Very sorry, Alexei. I thought you were a woman.
And we also have a super chat from Enric. Thank you so much. He says, would Trump actually go in and stop Putin with mineral deal, or just do it to look good? You mean as in if this deal does happen and there are sort of American interest in Ukraine, if sort of, I mean, who knows with Trump? There's been companies all over the world that have been nationalized by countries and America did nothing about that. Now you're saying that with Trump, maybe it would be different. That's the biggest problem with Trump always. It's like, I don't know, maybe. It's the same thing with NATO now. Like, if Russia invades the Baltic countries, will we defend it with Trump at the head? Maybe. We don't know.
Well, I just, I long for, the days where the good guys and the bad guys were clearly defined and understood by the West, by the American president. And I see a lot of kind of, moral equivalency here in the effort to make a deal. Rand talks about making a deal with evil and, the not only futility in that, but my own interpretation of true immorality of that. So the future, the show today is the uncertain future of Ukraine. And I think it really is uncertain. But if you stand up for the West, if you stand up for freedom, individualism, rights, I think you know which side you're on.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to see, I'd actually like to see this year, Ukraine win. I really would like to see them start to take back key areas, and I think that they can do it. Russia has finished all of their Soviet era equipment. They're now down to, I mean, Russia still has amazing capabilities in terms of they're able to mobilize a workforce. They're on a war economy. They're able to kind of just churn things out. But I want to see them actually win this year. And I think it is possible. You're coming to that kind of, real crunch time where one of these actors is gonna surge forward and is gonna, go for it. And I want it to see I want it to be Ukraine. They created a ballistic missile for $10,000. I mean, that's inconceivable to me. It's amazing. But wow, I definitely would like to see them win decisively, completely. I do believe it's possible, but you need the USA for that.
Now, Trump hasn't sort of responded to Zelensky yet on his Truth Social. I'm checking out, but I'll read his most recent. What do they call them on his Truths? I think they call them Truths, right? That's a great name.
I truthed.
So Donald J. Trump has said, please explain to Governor Trudeau of Canada that when he puts on a retaliatory tariff on the US, our reciprocal tariff will immediately increase by like amount. So that's a great. I really love Trump for damping my sort of stock gains. I'm down
Can I just say, at a time in which you should be advocating against any type of like territorial imperialism, Trump's obsession with calling Canada the 51st state it's not only like stupid, it's a real insult to a great country, a perfectly fine country that's been a great neighbor to the US. So like this whole idea that, well, borders are up to decision and deal making and, might makes right. I hate that thing that Trump's doing with calling Canada the 51st state. It's stupidity and it's of no benefit.
Oh, you're so triggered, Jonathan. I mean, come on, you'll have a lovely, an additional state that you could live in the north. And it's also, there's a lot more land. It's much cheaper. There you go.
Yeah, I still don't get it. Is it going to be
better ideas, not more land mass?
Okay. Now, again, I think Jonathan is saying in his mind, is Alex serious? I don't know.
Yeah, and I still don't understand. Is like all of Canada gonna be one state, or like is every single province gonna be like
one state has to be one state.
All right, let's not entertain this. Jonathan, any last words, and where can people find you?
Well, if you're not interested in politics, as I often am not, you should check out this book that was written by Dr. Leonard Peikoff. Dr. Leonard Peikoff was Ayn Rand's intellectual heir, and like me and so many of you, he's a huge dog lover. So Dr. Peikoff and I did this book together. Can You Really Love a Dog? It's at Amazon. And
I love it.
Thank you, Alex. It's a philosophical understanding of our relationship with pets. Can You Really Love a Dog? It's at Amazon. And thank you to all of our subscribers who make ARCUK possible.
Alex,
I recommend. I was going to say, I recommend Jonathan's book on Audible, actually, New Textbooks, Book of Americanism. It's actually Jonathan's voice as well. It's very good. I've listened to it a number of times. Yeah.
Didn't put you to sleep. I'm glad.
It really didn't, actually. No. I very much, it was engaging. I think it might be interesting for everybody to go and take a look at the Danielle Pletka's Substack. She's a real advocate for Ukraine, has written some very interesting things about this. And also the American Enterprise Institute has also done a lot of very interesting stuff on their foreign policy podcast, supportive of Ukraine. And speaking about how Ukraine can achieve victory.
And with that, thank you everybody for watching. We'll continue following this. Especially, I hope that we might see some action in Gaza soon. Especially now that everybody is talking about Ukraine. I think Israel. Unfortunately, this is the state of the world we are in, where Israel can only do actions when something else is happening. So nobody covers what Israel is doing. But Israel might actually go back into Gaza or go further into Gaza rather. So hopefully tomorrow's topic will be on that. But until then, until tomorrow's video and the reality show, thank you everybody for watching, and bye bye.
Bye.